Welcome guys, industry changing stuff, genuinely. Nissan and Honda are going to be teaming up. Pretty crazy, genuinely pretty crazy. This is massive stuff, huge, because there is an influx now of cheap Chinese EVs into Europe and the Western world. And so obviously Japan, a major car, huge in the car industry, wasn't for a time, but is now massive in the car industry. They're having to up their game. Everyone is having to up their game. Everyone. Which is interesting because there were reports now that a bunch of these Chinese EVs have been kept in storage in like Europe and things like that, and they've got mold in them. Yeah, that's a whole other video, I'm sure. But this is pretty major, so I thought we'd take a look at it. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. I do my own car builds. Slowly go around to car shows, bit of vlogging, and now some industry news as well. Try to get some videos out here and there. So if that's your cup of tea, hit subscribe and we'll take a look. So this is pretty major. Nissan and Honda teaming up on electrification. This is an article with Forbes. There's a few that all say very similar things, but basically China has forced the hand of the two of the largest Japanese automakers to take the decisive action on EVs and AI, apparently. So Japan's second and third biggest selling automakers, Nissan and Honda, said on Friday that they have had to decide to investigate a strategic alliance in the fields of electric cars and AI. So that's interesting that they're including AI in there. And it is interesting. Like, I wonder who's Toyota teaming up with? Are they big enough where they don't need to? And isn't it interesting that the likes of Nissan is needing to team up with Honda? Because Nissan, famously sold the Leaf. The Leaf is a huge market for EVs, but even they can't compete. It's pretty crazy times, and they've got the, as pictured here, the Aria. I'm guessing this is simply because they need to bring the cost down. So co-development brings costs down. Probably what it is. Whereas Toyota's pushing hydrogen power at the moment, or have been for a while, with the Miura. And then also, it's probably not called that. And then also the Lexus. Lexus have a few complete EVs as well. So maybe Toyota's got their own, they're fine with that. But interesting stuff. So according to Japan Times, the goal of the move was to catch up with Chinese competitors who have taken a decisive lead in EVs, while Japanese companies concentrated more on hybrid cars. Toyota, for instance, and Lexus, they both believe that hybrid is the future. And I still do too, as well, in fairness. So a joint statement from the new partners simply stated, to further accelerate efforts towards carbon neutrality and zero traffic accident fatalities, it will be essential to strengthen environmental and electrification technologies as well as software development. The two companies have reached an understanding based on the belief that it is necessary to combine strengths and explore the possibility of future collaboration, said the statement. Now that's interesting. So they're talking about zero traffic accident fatalities. So they're talking about AI, which is, they're trying to push essentially to self-driving cars, but in there as well, I will pop my tinfoil hat on just for a second, because there are a whole bunch of reports where cars that communicate with other cars, and essentially they're trying to phase out combustion engines, internal combustion engines in cars which cannot communicate with other vehicles. Now I don't know how much stock I put in that personally, but this is still pretty major turn of events anyway. And I do think, just to get a little bit political here, just briefly, because I think it's important. Every Western world at the moment, every Western country, in the world at the moment is looking to push for net zero. But I do think it's, carbon net zero. But I do think it's interesting and important to note is that with no cap on immigration, be it illegal or illegal immigration, you can't have a plan to reach net zero. You physically can't. If you're having, consistently hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, as well as legal immigration, that, how do you plan for net zero at that point? You physically can't. What are you trying to aim towards with the British populace, for instance, or, the American populace ever growing, from this artificial inflation by immigration? Where's net zero then at that point? Because the output and the use and the consumption keeps going up. It does seem like they're sort of diametrically opposed to one another, I'm sure. So not to get too political, but I think that's worth pointing out. If you're a car fan and there's a distinct push for net zero, it's important to keep that in mind. And also, if you say you're in the UK, for instance, push that on to your local MPs. Ask them, how does that make any sense? Where's the plan for that then? Anyway, let's move back to Nissan and Honda teaming up. So according to the automakers, the feasibility study's scope encompasses EV-related core components, automotive software platforms, and supplementary goods. So it's a lot of it is just group, coming together to keep costs down, development costs. It says this: we're up against new competitors in addition to established automakers. That's from Makoto Uchido, which is the Nissan CEO. These emerging brands with innovative products and new business models are making inroads into the auto market and are trying to gain dominance by capitalizing on their overwhelming price competitiveness and amazing speed. But I genuinely don't see the appeal to Chinese brands. And I think a lot of people don't as well. Like in the UK, for instance, yeah, we're having tough times financially, but I think a lot of people still have that negative connotation of cheap Chinese crap. The 3 C's: cheap, Chinese, crap. And as per the mould reports, that does seem to be pretty well founded, to be fair. We cannot win the competition as long as we stick to conventional wisdom and traditional approach, he stated. Again, this is all the Nissan CEO. According to Toshiro Maib, president of Honda, the automobile sector is undergoing a once-in-a-century transformation, which it is. It really is. Our study criteria will be whether the synergy of the technologies and knowledge that our companies have cultivated will enable us to become industry leaders by creating new value for the automotive industry. So in Japan, hybrid vehicles are at a record level of popularity, which is what I said. I think that's the future, with internal combustion engines and battery powered combined to account for 40% of sales in 2022. However, Japanese car makers' heavy focus on hybrids has caused them to fall behind in satisfying the growing demand for fully electric vehicles. I don't know. I don't see the massive demand, but whatever. In contrast to over 15% in Western Europe and 5.3% in the US, barely 1.7% of cars sold in Japan in 2022 were electric. Last year, China surpassed Japan to become the world's largest auto exporter. In 2022, EVs made up as much as 20% of new cars sold in China. According to Chris Riddle, an auto analyst in Japan, both of the companies are not a high enough scale to create enough profit margins, so they're actually under pressure to create partnership, which makes sense. Even though they were fierce rivals historically, it makes more sense for Nissan to get together with a Japanese company like Honda rather than having these cultural wars with an alliance partner like Renault, which is true because it was Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi at a time, wasn't it? So there you go. They're teaming up. What does this say about the future of the sort of car industry? I still don't think personally that Chinese EVs will be a massive issue. I think quality control with their cars will be a massive issue. Like I said, I think the mold is part of the problem. There's apparently a whole host of issues going on with those cars from build quality as well. But Nissan and Honda teaming up. Interesting. What will we see next, guys? What do you think we will see next? Let me know down below. Anyway, like I said, hit subscribe if you enjoy videos like this. And Project Cars, I myself have just released shortly before this video a Datsun 510 build video as well. So yes, your subscription helps sort of build the channel enough for me to put more car project videos out. That goes a long way. So anyway, cheers guys, take care, bye bye now.